am next going to hand over to the next moderator, which is, hi, Irene. Irene is our regional hub manager for our Asia Pacific region, and she will be moderating and emceeing the next lot of presentations. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much, Ruth. We've just wrapped up, everybody, an incredibly insightful session with our expert panelists. Thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and experience. And welcome, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us to this second day of the Long Run's Virtual Impact Show. It's just really interesting. And I'm sure that you're able to take a lot of takeaway notes, because I did. And so at this point, we will now shift from strategy to story, and starting with how our long runners are bringing this to life on the ground. So first up, we have, we actually are going to head now to New Zealand with Kate Holmes, a global marketing manager at Tahi, a nature sanctuary that beautifully blends biodiversity restoration, community, and business. So today, Kate will take us through Tahi's science-based restoration journey. Over to you, Kate.
Thank you so much. Hopefully everyone can see my screen okay.
Yes.
I'm Kate Holmes, Marketing Director at Tahi, and I said there's no other organisation that I would present for nearly at midnight other than the Long Run. So it really is an honour to be here this evening. Thank you so much. As one of the founding members of the Long Run, many of you may be familiar with the Tahi story, but for those that aren't, we have a really rich 20-year history in science-led strategic restoration. Our model sees that 100% of profits from Tahi are reinvested into biodiversity, and some of the results are astounding. We've planted and invested in over 8.8 million native trees. Our model is what really makes us unique. So not only is Tahi an ecotourism destination, but we were really set up, our founding purpose, to be part of solving the world's biodiversity crisis. And really at Tahi, that's about ecosystem creation. So beyond just protecting incredible national parks or areas that are already significant, our model sees that we really return barren landscapes back to biodiverse ecosystems. A second part of our model that's very unique is that we have our brands of biodiversity. And these are really brands with purpose that power our purpose. So Tahi Manuka honey is a high UMF Manuka honey sourced from our eco retreat and sold globally in the likes of Harrods and Selfridges. And we also have a stunning skincare brand called Kaya. And again, 100% of profits from these brands are also reinvested back into biodiversity. Finally, Tahi's model is really set up to support science, and we're really proud to have science as one of the core pillars of our brand, and importantly, really open source our learnings so that other partners or those advocating for nature can really leverage the resources that we have developed. So this is Tahi. It's our 800-acre living eco lab in New Zealand. It stretches many ecosystems from marine life right through to ancient Maori pa at the rear of the property. And we have scientists with over 40 years experience in ecosystem regeneration living at Tahi. The results, I think sometimes pictures speak louder than words. So you can see here that what once a biodiversity desert is really now a rich ecosystem. And we've taken what was some boggy farm paddocks and have reawakened over 20 wetlands on the property. There are so many highlights from our journey, but I think in particular for me, it's really the role of bird life at Tahi. So we see birds as really the markers and messengers of biodiversity. And when our story began 20 years ago, we had just 20 species of birds on the property. And today we have over 71 and counting. And I think it's an incredible, really shares that incredible role that birds play in ecosystems. On the ecotourism side, for those of you that have been following our story closely, we are really excited to reveal, and this is the first time we've shared these images at all. We're excited to share the first of our true luxury offering, which is the beach house at Tahi. So this sits nestled in the sand dunes overlooking the Pacific Ocean, and has been designed by eminent New Zealand architects Patterson. And the property is really designed to support luxury living without compromise. Supporting the beach house, we also have some existing cottages on the property. So for those of you that aren't familiar, we have Hiwi, which is a beautiful heritage cottage nestled into the hills. And we also have a third house, Mara, which is more of a contemporary home set in the estate, surrounded with beautiful subtropical gardens. However, today I'm not really here to talk about ecotourism per se, but more our purpose. And we really see that our purpose is beyond ecotourism. Our purpose is really around sharing the science of biodiversity. So globally, biodiversity has really reached this critical juncture. Over half the world's GDP is moderately or highly dependent on nature, yet the true value of nature remains unaccounted for in the global economy. And it's our belief that the success of any nature-positive transition really depends on the rather unglamorous foundation of great data. And as you've been talking to, a lot of that still sits in formats like Excel. Planetary boundaries are limits beyond which human activities could jeopardize the stability of Earth. And they're really defined as key processes that are known to regulate the Earth state and maintain a healthy and stable Earth ecosystem. Biodiversity and climate change really underpin all of these boundaries, and without these, the rest really becomes irrelevant. One of the manifests is through the role of tree canopy cover, which has far-reaching impacts on global weather patterns. The science is telling us that biodiversity matters and that native biodiverse forests, rich in canopy tree structure, are really part of this solution. At Tahi, we have contributed a number of scientific evidence to support this, the first of which is the BioValue Index. So this is an innovative science-based decision-making tool developed over 2 decades of data by Tahi, our nature reserve, and it really measures how Indigenous tree species contribute to whole ecosystems. Beyond carbon, the BVI quantifies biodiversity and ecosystem health and serves as a vital tool for transitioning towards a biodiversity positive. This is a pioneering and award-winning science-backed approach that we're really proud to share with our global audience, and one that we see that others can really leverage beyond the borders of New Zealand and Tahi to use in their businesses to start to shift the conversation away from solely being carbon to that of biodiverse ecosystems. Our aim is also to accelerate the conversation from what we see as a very simplistic role of carbon back to the value of biodiversity. By focusing on optimizing carbon sequestration through monoculture species, such as pine plantations, at Tahi, we believe we've really lost sight of our environmental responsibilities. Unlike carbon, biodiversity loss really cannot be reduced to a singular metric like CO2. Some of the scientific results that we've been leading at Tahi really prove the role of biodiversity, and that in the long run, native biodiverse forests really can sequester more carbon than those of pine plantations. We've also shown that through our science-based modelling, we can really generate a new era of modern carbon capture. At Tahi, when it comes to carbon, we've shown that we really need to consider the whole landscape rather than that just of the tree. So we measure the forest, the soil, the mangroves, and the wetland. Our carbon capture methodology pairs global best practice standards with the latest emerging science in the role of wetland and soil capture. And we really encourage others to replicating this modelling. In some of the most latest scientific research, we're engaging new technologies such as LIDAR. LIDAR is a specialist high-resolution radar survey tool, and we've deployed it via drone to really review the structure of the forest. This ensures that our science-based team have previously unattainable records of accuracy. In a really pioneering and world-first study, we are also combining this LIDAR data with dendrochronology data, which is the measure of tree rings. And we hope to reveal some incredible results in that study in the near future. In addition, we're really excited to be working with RESTOR Global to translate our high-resolution LIDAR data into new formats and insights. As you alluded to earlier, breakthroughs in technology are, rapidly changing the world, and also the way that we view biodiversity conservation. We've seen huge improvements in drone technology, measuring tools, and these are really generating very precise three-dimensional information. So the video that you're seeing on my screen today is an example of this, looking at the structure and form of the forest at Tahi. We see that really integrating all these sensors and tools are going to create the breakthroughs that we all need to be able to value nature. As I mentioned earlier, dendrochronology is an area that we are particularly interested at Tahi, which is the study of tree rings. Trees have been keeping really detailed climate records, and our innovative pilot study will review how carbon sequestration compares from when we first took over the property to after there has been 20 years of restoration, the removal of grazing animals, and an invasive species management program. Through the tree rings, we're going to be able to understand how this has affected the tree's ability to store carbon. And finally, we have some preliminary results from a very incredible soil infiltration study. So our hypothesis was that since returning biodiversity to Tahi, the amount of water leaving our forested catchments had significantly reduced. So I guess you might be asking, why on earth is this significant? But in a world with increasing extreme weather events, we can really prove that scientifically biodiversity can work to support the performance of the land to extreme weather events such as huge floods. During droughts, water is also now available for plant and animal life, which means in turn that we can prove that biodiversity has restored a much more resilient ecosystem. And again, here you can see how this is reflected in our scientific studies. So from me down under in New Zealand, thank you for your time today. I guess we really hope that Tahi's work really exemplifies how we can create holistic benefits and how we can really work to align goals, whether that be economic, financial, and create new models for biodiversity that balance costs with return. It's our belief that consensus on these science-based metrics is really the key to unlocking global solutions. We need to enable governments, companies, and financial institutions to really monitor biodiversity and finance it at scale. At Tahi, as you've seen, our rich 20-year history really puts us in a unique position on the global stage. And it's our vision that a slice of this work will really pave the way for informed decision-making and help drive positive change. So thank you so much for your time today. That's a wrap from me, but you're welcome. Any questions? Thank you again.
Thank you so much, Kate. Now, for sharing a 2 decade of inspiring story, really. And, sharing your journey of science-based restoration is just incredibly inspiring. It's always a mic drop when Tahi actually shares their story. But I do have a question for you, Kate, regarding data, really. So
Yes.
with that 2 decades, how do you ensure that the data and insights that you collect continue to guide decisions? Well, not just internally, but also, to inspire other stakeholders.
Yeah, look, as I shared earlier, the science-based focus and data capture is really viewed from a Tahi perspective as a core value in the business. And I think when you define that as a core value in your business, it affects every decision, every meeting, and really becomes a defining feature of your organization. And so I think from what you see here today with the breadth of the analysis and science-based results, how that's shaping, every decision and what we go after. And they say when that becomes an organizational value, I think everyone places the value on time on it to support that data capture.
Right. Thank you so much, Kate. And we are rooting for Tahi as you continue to be a powerful example of, how thoughtful, values-driven measurement can shape the landscape and lasting impact. Thank you once again.
Pleasure, Irene. Thank you, everyone, for your time.
Thank you. Right, so everyone, next we travel to the Zanzibar coast of Tanzania with Salim. Salim, Conservation and Education Coordinator at Pe Island Coral Park, a globally celebrated model for marine conservation and sustainable ecotourism. And today, Salim will be sharing us the story that brings together people and purpose to protect one of the world's most pristine reef systems. Salim?
Yes, Irene, can you hear me?
Yes.
All right, and I think everyone can see my screen as well. Yep.
Yes.
Thank you so much for the opportunity, Irene. Hi, everyone. My name is Sali Dawa. I'm working with Chumbe as a conservation education theory. What is happening? I need to go to the next slide.
It's displaying actually good right now, but if you can click on next, perhaps.
Yep, it's not working. I don't know why. Sorry.
Oh, that's okay. We can actually try to post. We can try to share your presentation for you as you continue with the story of Chumbe, if that's okay, Salim.
Yep, I think let's do this. Can you see that, right?
Salim, you can also turn
Yes.
off your video feed. I think that'll help a little bit.
It's working now, right?
It's still showing the title page.
Oh, here it displays now. I can see.
Okay, yep, that's okay. We are seeing the next page, so you may proceed with your
Okay, yeah.
presentation.
All right, so
Thank you, Salim.
I'm so sorry
It's
for the
all right.
technical
No, it's
problem.
okay.
Starting with who we are. So Chumbe Island Coral Park was established as a not-for-profit private company back in 1992. And in 1994, the government of Zanzibar officially gazetted and declared that Chumbe Island is a marine protected area. The western side of the island is also categorized as Class 2 protected no-take zone area by IUCN. What makes Chumbe so special and unique is the first privately managed marine protected area in the world that hosts a pristine coral reef sanctuary, a forest reserve, and an ecology. The main mission of Chumbe is managing a forest and a marine reserve for conservation and education purpose. Three pillars describes our sustainability and what we do. The first being ecotourism, where there is a very high yield but very low environmental impact. We are also using eco-technology and eco-architecture in our infrastructures, but also in our operations. And this can be seen through or by our compost toileting, rainwater harvesting, and greywater filtrations. We have been a model for sustainable tourism in Zanzibar, and 100% of revenues generated through ecotourism remains in Zanzibar. That means there is no leakage. We have also been a best practice example of blue economy investment in Zanzibar. We are also using renewable energy. Chumbe Island is a zero plastic island, and cultural heritage together with history has been well preserved. Moving to the second pillar, which is conservation, the company finances the protected area management and all conservation activities. The entire area is a 100% no-take zone area, thus makes Chumbe one among the areas with highest marine biodiversity in Zanzibar in East Africa. There are also rare and endemic species, and there is also no cost for government, and we are working very closely with local and international research institutes. Moving to the third pillar, which is education. Again, the company funds education programs, and as we speak right now, there are more than 12,000 participants that have been benefited. Excursions for school children are conducted in partnership with the Ministry of Education. We are also providing trainings and for teachers, communities, and fishers. Just to add more information about how our EE program look like. So there are island excursions for different types of groups. And the main beneficiaries are local communities, students of all levels, both national and international students. We are providing teacher training support, and for the community that cannot come on the island, we are doing out programs to their areas. We are also leaving behind the government and NGO officials, where we are providing awareness tours, and we are also doing different trainings for women and youth. Just recently, we have finished 2 programs. One is Youth Conservation Ambassadors and Ranger Training program that I will speak about it in the next slide. All of these are fully funded by the company, by CHICOP. And the main goal is to come up with a community or to create a community that is environmentally aware and they can protect their natural environment. He just wants to show you some of the areas and topics that we are mainly focused in our program, and just the basic concepts. And our program involves theory plus practical. So among the topics include corals and coral reefs, forest ecology, environmental conservation, sustainable and ecotourism, and blue economy. And the instructors in Chumbe use different methods and approaches in delivering this, such as classroom sessions, but also then the participants get a chance to do practical activities such as forest tour. They are also getting opportunity to go and swim inside the MPA to experience the reef, and to make the program more engaging, more interesting. Games and quizzes are also used. I'd like to speak on these two programs, the Youth Conservation Ambassador, just to give you a context of this program. So the Zanzibar local youth were trained in Chumbe for a period of time by the Chumbe instructors, and at the end they were supposed to spread the knowledge and skill that they acquire through this program to the wider community. And here we can see some of the testimonials from the graduates of this program. This one is Safia. As you can see in this picture, she was doing a program to restore mangrove in one area in Zanzibar. And these programs, they organize themselves, but supported by Chumbe. And one of her testimonials is she admitted that she learned how to reduce waste, but also learning about natural composting instead of throwing away waste. And she is using this knowledge now to the wider community, home and other neighbors. The next one is a testimonial from Mustafa. He is also one of the graduates of this program. And he is doing his own hand jobs. And before the program, he used to use a plastic package for the products that he's producing. But after the program, he is trying now to use alternative material, different material, to avoid any usage of specifically the single-use plastic. But the good story about Mustafa is also he is now pursuing a bachelor degree in environmental science. And he admitted that the program inspired him to do this program now. The next one is women ranger training. Unfortunately, in our community, there are very few women that are willing to work as rangers. So what we are trying to do as Chumbe is to provide training and awareness on how to become a ranger. And just recently, we have completed this program. And the young lady that we are seeing here, her name is Afida. And he is now, we are using her as a backup ranger in Chumbe, and she's very proud of that. And she has admitted again that the program changed her mindset. She can now swim. She acquired those skills. She is now very confident in terms of introducing herself, but also she can share information with guests, something that she did not know before. The other testimonial that we can see here is from community fishers that visited the island for day trips. And after the trip and all activities, we had a conversation with them, and others admitted a lot of things. I will stay quiet for 10 seconds so that you can read and then proceed with the next slide. Yep, and the next slide is the overall education impact, the numbers now. And you could see there, we are now approaching 900 environmental education excursions to Chumbe Island. And it has involved the local school children, national and international students, and teachers as well from different learning institutions. And the main target community is not left behind because there are a number. We are approaching now 2,000 community members, including fishers, seaweed farmers, and female bivalve. And this has made the program to cover a total participants of 12,655. Yep. Last but not least, I would like to take this opportunity to welcome everyone in Chumbe Island to visit us and support the project. Thanks so much for listening.
Salim?
Yes.
Okay, thank you so much, Salim, for showing us how education really empowers the youth and also to really create that lasting marine stewardship. And thank you so much for sharing your story. I think we
You're
lost
welcome.
you somewhere at the end, but yes, for everyone, we are seeing the information for Chumbe. So Salim is saying we're welcome to visit them. Thank you once again,
Yeah,
Salim.
sure.
And
Thank you
now
so
we
much.
head to the Himalayan foothills of Nepal with Marcus Cotton, Managing Director of the Tiger Mountain Pokhara Lodge. So Marcus is going to share to us today how the lodge is putting regeneration into practice through its RAG. So I think we have Marcus now.
It should be coming any minute. I hope you can hear me.
Yes, clear. Thank you so much. Hi,
Well,
Marcus.
Hi, Irene. It's lovely to join everyone on this afternoon. I'm having a little difficulty sharing my screen, so I can't do it on anywhere else. It's just sort of going round and round without actually doing anything. Let me just see. Oh, here we are.
That's all right. We can
Good,
also actually.
We've got it. Here we
Okay,
are.
perfect.
Sorry, the thing
That's
is
all
there.
right.
Let me just see. Oh, it decided to unload itself in the time. There won't be a second getting this up.
Okay. So RAG, by the way, stands for the Regenerative Action and Advisory Group, right, Marcus?
It does indeed, and we had a meeting this morning on our 4C action plan. So, you know, we're moving ahead. What a wonderful thing to move up from Zanzibar in East Africa to the Himalayas. I think it's absolutely amazing that we can leap around the world so easily. So welcome everyone. Regenerative Action Group, RAG, called RAG because in Sanskrit that means the warp and weft of anything. So the very core. And I thought that was quite a good acronym for sustainability and regenerative tourism. I use regeneration and sustainability rather interchangeably, which probably doesn't please certain people, but it's the way we do it. So Tiger Mountain, a quick history. We had parents, Tiger Tops, a safari operator down in Chitwan in the southern plains of Nepal, and Mountain Travel Nepal, the pioneer trekking company. And geographically in the country, we are halfway between the lowlands and the high mountains. So you can see the picture at the top of the screen there of Fishtail Mountain and Annapurna 2, Annapurna 1. So we're midway between the two. And our role was to be midway between the two concepts of wildlife in the plains and mountain trekking. And that's how our journey came along. And from Tahi, it's lovely to know that Sir Ed Hillary opened our property, and Lady June actually came in on our 10th anniversary. So we have a long link with New Zealand there as well. My colleague is the New Zealand Honorary Consul in Kathmandu. So sustainability, we all accept it's dynamic. I think we take that as a given. And funnily, I see it even more now that I'm more UK based rather than based in the lodges full time as I used to be. Because when you hear every day, you know, those incremental changes are less visible. Now I come back after 3 months and I see more significant changes. Just yesterday, some of the team was saying to me, look, the priority for land in the community now is not farming, it's not conservation, it's not to build housing developments. As the urbanization of Pokhara increases and spreads out towards us. Now on 3 sides we have government forests, so that gives us a bit of protection and provides that green lung. But we obviously have to adjust our approaches. We cannot tell people not to build houses, can we? So how do we inculcate the philosophy of sustainability, not just within the lodge, but also throughout the community around us? So a little bit of history here. Obviously, through our founders, we've actually traveled the gamut from sort of early days of ecotourism. You could even go back to hunting safaris if you dug deep enough in the 60s. So right from that, through ecotourism, sustainability, regeneration, and that is the dynamism. But it was often very top-down. And with my move to England, put into sharp focus that this must be inculcated right throughout the system, not just me saying, do this. There were, complex how do you inculcate creativity, adaptation? You know, they're quite complicated ideas, and particularly in a society like in a lot of Asiatic societies where the boss's word is law, and in an absolute sense, no questions, just do it. And so to empower people and say, no, it's not my decision, it's your decision, was quite a complex journey to get that team engagement and to develop people who were prepared to stand up. And actually, over the last 3 years, I think we've done quite well at it. I say it myself. We have got people who are, I always use as a test, if I say something deliberately silly, will people say no? And if they do, I feel, yes, that's great. That's the test that people do. So anyway, so RAG was the end result of all this. The picture here was actually when Delphine from the Long Run was visiting to try and push and help us push our partnership with the local community forest committee into a deeper level. And she was brilliant at helping, just as an outside and independent voice, to slightly allay some of the committee's fears. And today's meeting of RAG, where we did an internal meeting, we had well over 50% of the team present, and from across all the departments. And we were sharing the 4C action plan and SunX Malta's climate action plan that they've drafted for us. I love the idea of getting all these experts to draft these plans for us. It makes life so much easier. And yeah, we made good progress on that. But also a lot of general comment came up, and I was really excited to see how both regular members attending RAG, but also others, were really biting the bullet on this and seeing the chance to have their say. So there was a real development of inspiration and aspiration, I think, in the way the present collaborated, listened, challenged. It also, because we were dealing with climate change, it was incredibly hard for me to speak in Nepali, because obviously these are the technical things. It's hard to find the right Nepali words. Going to the future, I think we talk about extending the impact. You know, there are many members of the team there who actually have arranged major changes. For instance, in Nepal, there's no local government refuse collection in rural areas, even if they are technically part of a town in terms of local government administration. And yet Hari, one of our guides, has got in his area of the village the community to come together, badger the local municipality to do a monthly refuse collection. You know, really amazing achievement. And when the government said, well, you're going to have to pay for this, he said, no, we're not. You've got to do it. And he looked up the law and he found that, yes, they did, and done a wonderful job. So you know, it's just one example of how things happen and develop. The guy in the blue shirt and the cap on the left of the picture is Ishwar. He's our sustainability manager. And he, for instance, has banned plastic in his home, and he's encouraging people in his community to do the same. You know, there's lots of things with this trickle-down effect into communities and beyond just the immediate tourism sort of environment. Our plan for the future is two things really with RAG. One, from a voluntary attendance, we can create a sort of sustainability champion in each department of the lodge who will compulsorily attend RAG or arrange for someone to attend on their behalf if they really can't. And to bring in local community groups, whether it's mothers groups, the Community Forest Committee will obviously be there naturally as our partnership evolves, but to have this sort of wider voice of the community right on the inside at that RAG, warp and weft of Sanskrit, of the way the lodge operates, and particularly the way it impacts in the local community. So where we are, that's short and sweet thing. Just going back to the original discussion quickly, on RAG has been instrumental in helping the staff to do data collection, because people could come together and say, how on earth do we measure this or that, or why should we be doing this or that? And it's really helped our data collection sort of processes, which obviously Ishwar leads as the boss on that side, but getting everyone involved and everyone measuring, to the point that a colleague who was helping us said, you can't measure everything all the time, calm down. So it's been really brilliant for that. We are seeing better ownership morale. We're seeing this empowerment, as I've said. There are technical improvements in the operations as well. You know, we're actually technically at zero waste to landfill already, although it's because we just store that awkward plastic and we haven't worked out quite what to do with it yet. But at least it's safe and it's not causing any damage. I think our challenges are this regenerative leadership model, how we disseminate that, how we encourage people to join us on the journey. This is going to be the challenge, I think. I think that sums up all I have to say. Irene, have I missed anything?
Actually, no, but you did very well. Thank you so much, Marcus, for sharing Tiger Mountain's Pokhara Lodge story and showing that, you know, the power that sustainability has to start from within. Thank you. So everyone, next we journey now to Sri Lanka with Chamintha Jayasinghe, co-founder of Ayu in the Wild, who will share how they're reimagining luxury through the halo effect. Chami?
Hi, Irene. Thank you so much. You can see the screen and hear me well?
I can hear you very well, but we don't have your presentation yet.
Oh, okay. Is that?
Or I can also share that from here.
Hold on for a second.
That's all right. It's okay. I'm gonna share my screen now, and then
All good
okay,
now?
there you go. Yep, it's there. It's loading.
It's loading.
Yes, so you just have to have it on % mode now, and then
All
you're
done?
good to go.
Sorry about that. Thank you so much,
That's all
Irene.
right.
Thanks for the introduction and thank you to the Long Run for this lovely opportunity. My name is Chamintha and I'm the co-founder of Ayu in the Wild Holidays. We have a travel company based in Sri Lanka, made up of entirely Sri Lankan, it's women-led, entirely Sri Lankan staff. And we've been in operation since 2012, curating tailor-made travel, but with a little bit of a twist. Because we've always wondered how we could go beyond the traditional model of luxury travel. And we've done that successfully mainly because we've had fresh thinking coming in. I'm not from the travel industry. My husband's not from the travel industry. We are the two co-founders. None of my staff are from the travel industry. So a little bit of fresh thinking helped us to think beyond the traditional model, where usually luxury travel is really determined by the most well-marketed experiences. And the most well-marketed experiences comes usually from the hotels. And we know with the big PR spends, there's nothing wrong with that. But when they're location and property specific, we wanted to go and we wanted to make an impact just beyond booking hotel-led experiences. So right from the start of our company, we wanted to use luxury travel to make a bigger impact on the country, because we're all born and bred in Sri Lanka, educated entirely in Sri Lanka. So how we reimagine luxury was we went beyond the hotel-led experiences to connecting our guests with their interest to local experiences hosted by communities who were in our network of locals. And so on screen, you now see a set of trekkers. They didn't come on trekking holiday, they came on a very high-end luxury trip. There were 6 of them who worked with their travel agent, who collaborated the entire trip with me. And they wanted a lot of outdoor experiences. So what we did was we curated these treks around for them, around the island, especially in the Ceylon tea hills. But this had one request which they sent through their agent, which was to meet local. And they wanted to see local communities, meet them and see how they lived. And so when we curated this experience, it was with the help of a local community-based guide. So we have local community-based guides around the island. And they can be driver, they can be someone who's not part of the tourist trail, but who knows the lay of the land really well. So with our local community-based guides, we curate these experiences where these trekkers could go and meet with the estate community kids and see how they school, the challenges to the estate communities. And so it becomes a very authentic experience, but with the guest really understanding the purpose of the experience. These experiences we have curated across the entire island. So the whole island is really our canvas. We've counted for the moment, this number is growing, 55 unique local experiences across all 9 provinces, including in the formerly war-torn north. these experiences, we have 37 out of the 55, which are community-based, which showcases traditions, livelihoods, craft. These are intentionally curated with micro-entrepreneurs and underprivileged households. So when guests sit for dinner in a setting like what you see on screen right now, beautiful outdoor alfresco luxury experience, wining and dining with the best of meals and wines. So we don't compromise on that level of luxury, but these guests will probably be speaking about the micro-entrepreneurs and the underprivileged households who hosted their experience. So that is how we reimagine luxury beyond the usual guidebook, beyond the usual hotel-led experiences. This is what I call thoughtful indulgence. So you indulge in the experience, but in a more thoughtful, non-contrived, interest-led way with grassroots communities. So our farm-to-table experience could be in the home of a farmer, where the guest can be indulging in a G&T, maybe, but after having cooked with the farmer's wife on a very incredibly meaningful farm-to-table experience. These grassroots communities are our experience hosts, our storytellers, and they're very far from the usual tourist trail, where generally in Sri Lanka, the tourism experiences can be quite contrived. And set up. We also have, out of our 55 unique experiences, 18 nature-based ones, where around the island, we don't depend on a single lodge or a single hotel to provide naturalists for safaris or treks. We have our own naturalists, and that is how we always wanted to provide guiding for Are You in the Wild's tailor-made trip. Sri Lanka is a biodiversity hotspot. So when the entire trip is hosted by a naturalist, it brings out so much more about the biodiversity, the challenges to ecosystems, the human-wildlife cohabitation issues, and about the biodiverse wildlife that we have. It makes a trip far, far more insightful. So these nature-based experiences are spread around the island because, again, we don't depend on the hotels for the safaris or the outdoor treks. This is what we call the halo effect, because for the experience host, they get to reclaim their narrative. They get to save their livelihoods, preserve their traditions, and showcase them. And for the visitor, it becomes the reality of the experience is so grounded. So this halo effect puts tourism revenue into the hands of so many local grassroots communities around the island. But the halo effect really doesn't stop at the grassroots communities hosting the experience, because we use our tourism revenue, and this has been something we've started right from the day we started our company. We use our tourism revenue for initiatives like Classroom in the Wild, which is a spoken English class that we've been managing since 2014, and we provide bursaries for kids of guides and our experience hosts. So our tourism revenue gets filtered in many ways. And that's really how we reimagine luxury. So as a travel company based in Sri Lanka, none of our 5 staff members have travel industry experience. But we have managed to curate these 55 local experiences, which supports around 200 beneficiaries, and this is growing, but it also supports certain homegrown initiatives which we manage. I hope we managed to inspire all of you with our DMC. And if there are any questions, please feel free to ask.
Thank you so much, Chami, for for really showing us a vivid picture of thoughtful indulgence can really look like. And so from Sri Lanka, everyone, we are now finally heading to the dramatic outback of South Australia with Charlie Carlo, founder and guardian of Arkaba. And we have Charlie here now, but just a little while waiting for his presentation to be up. Hi, Charlie. So right. So Charlie will actually be sharing their bold journey of rewilding Arkaba. So Charlie, over to you.
Okay, I'm not sure whether I've shared that screen yet, have I?
Not yet.
Yeah, okay, this is technical time. Sorry.
That's all right. These
yeah,
things do happen.
more,
So just a little background on Arkaba for everyone who who is just joining us today. It is a former sheep station. So Charlie and the team actually reimagined it as a thriving conservation sanctuary. And so Charlie will be telling us more.
Thanks, Ari. Hi, everyone. Good evening, morning. Thanks for tuning in. I'm Charlie Carlo, the founder of Arkaba Conservancy. So we are an outback property in South Australia. We exist in a truly ancient landscape with a geological history that goes back hundreds of millions of years, an indigenous Aboriginal history that goes back tens of thousands of years, and a European history in this region that goes back less than 200 years. And I guess it's that last period that really we're dealing with of that, with a lot of the work that we're trying to do in the transition from a sheep station to a wildlife conservancy. Where we're located, South Australia, the driest of the Australian states. The property is 63,000 acres, so we've got enough scale to make a difference. We border the Flinders Ranges Park, just on our northeastern boundary where the cursor is. It's a semi-arid landscape, very ancient, as I mentioned, and very fragile as well. So hundreds of millions of years, when Australia drifted, separated from the Gondwana and supercontinent and drifted north, it basically evolved in isolation from the rest of the world. And as a result, we got some incredibly specialized habitat and incredibly specialized species that evolved with that. And all that was turned on its head when the Brits and Europeans arrived in Australia just over 200 years ago, bringing agricultural practices and introduced species that have caused havoc in Australia's environment. So just to put a bit of context to what we're trying to do. So Australia is one of 17 megadiverse countries in the world. 10% of the world's biodiversity is found here. But 90% of Australia's mammal, reptile, and frog species are literally found nowhere else in the world. So we've got something that's utterly unique, and we have to look after it. But we do have the dubious distinction of having the highest mammal extinction rate in the world over the last 200 years. So there's 34 mammal species that have disappeared from Australia in the last 200 years. And one of the topics I'll come on to is feral cats in regard to a particular project that we're working on at the moment. But they're probably the single greatest threat to Australia's biodiversity at the moment. And Arkaba, the property where we are, is when we took it on in 2009, it was a working sheep station, but it's semi-arid, dry, very marginal country, very hard to make work as a sheep station. We were lucky that previous owners had looked after it well, and a lot of the rugged range country had not been grazed as heavily as other parts of the country. So we've retained a lot of wildlife there, but we've got amazing topography, and we've got a landscape that inspires as soon as you're there. So it's made for tourism, and just the landscape wildlife gives us all the materials we need to inspire and influence people. So that as a tourism business is what we're trying to do. The measures that we're taking, removing feral herbivores, and by that it's sheep initially, it's goats, and it's rabbits predominantly. Getting rid of feral predators, that predominantly is feral cats and foxes where we are. Removing exotic weeds, broad landscape revegetation, and what I'm going to talk a bit about now, bringing back endangered species. So those are really the sort of main, very broad initiatives that we have on the property. And just to give you some idea of the sort of the equations we're working with. So when the country used to carry 8,000 sheep on it, the removal of them from the landscape, which we'd done by 2013, freed up almost 9 million kilos of grazing. So the impact on our larger mammal species, our red kangaroos and western grey kangaroos, was quick, and they came back in large numbers. Our springs they're no longer being trampled by sheep, so we've got freestanding clear water and things in them. But and the goats, that's a constant thing. The goats, you remove them, they come in from the surrounding properties. We're a bit like a magnet because of all the feed. But with an ongoing goat control, what we've seen is the return of yellow-footed rock wallabies that have suffered from competitive grazing from the goats in the past. On to cats, though. A feral cat in Australia, the sort of numbers that they talk about are between 5 and 17 native creatures are killed every night by each cat. So very broadly, they estimate that Australia loses about 500 million native animals every year just to feral cats. And there's very little that's predating on feral cats. So they're a major, major problem for us. Some of the panel about measuring, and we measure a lot of the sort of the standard water stats and things. We spend a lot of time measuring what we're doing with how we're trying to manage biodiversity growth on the property. A lot of that focuses on feral predators, feral herbivores, also removal of weeds, but also with what we're monitoring with endangered species. And I mentioned 3 species here: western quolls, brush-and-tail possums, and yellow-footed rock wallabies in particular. The measuring, I mean, this we do on a monthly basis, and it's incredible the focus it provides for in terms of what impact we're having. But actually, it's a real motivator when you see the data and the stats come through every month, and the staff are keen to see that and really involved with that. And you can also see that now that we've been on the property for 15 years, we're starting to see difference. So on the left-hand photo there, it's a Google Earth shot of the property, and where the cursor is along the bottom, that's our southern boundary. So to the south of us is a sheep station. To the west of us, our western boundary goes down just on the edge of that range there. To the west of us is a sheep station. National Park is just above us, but we're now seeing a distinct change in the landscape, literally on our boundaries. When you're on the ground on the property, it's slightly harder to see, but in a dry, fragile landscape, we've got its worth of revegetation to come. And our effort's not so much on replanting, it's more on removing the herbivores and grazers that are basically impacting on the vegetation. But I really wanted to talk about our large mammals. Kangaroos are really doing quite well. They're probably doing too well in terms of their abundance, but it's in the small mammals. And this guy particularly, third from the left, the Idnia, western quoll. So this is South Australia's largest native carnivore. It probably grow to about 2 kilos, so they're not huge. They've actually been extinct, Flinders Ranges and Arkaba, for over 100 years. But there was a reintroduction in the national park in 2014. And because of the controls we've been managing on feral cats and foxes and the likes of, the quolls have dispersed onto Arkaba, but they basically have been, and the survey we ran last year with the South Australian Landscapes Board, government body, showed basically yellow dots on here. Those were the quolls that female and male that were identified in the trapping survey, and we ran 525 trap nights across the week, and turned up 10 different quolls and 1 possum. Possums have been absent from the region for about 40 years, so this again, they were introduced next door and are coming back into the landscape. So that gave us a bit of a benchmark. You can see the grey crosses, those were all the different traps we ran on the trap lines across the property. And the quolls were very much on that northeastern corner. And what we're trying to do is our project now really is to get the quolls back across the entirety of the landscape. And from the northeast corner of the property, where they've got great habitat and where they're established and thriving there, we want to get them to the western side of Arkaba. But at the moment, the centre of Arkaba, which you can see in this slide, was much more heavily grazed by sheep. It's much more open country. It's for a little quoll coming across from the northeast there, it's a bit like trying to get through the Iron Curtain. And the rabbits have populated this area hugely. So where you get rabbits, you get large populations of cats. And the one thing we're trying to do is take the cats out of the equation as much as possible as a competitive predator, and give the quolls a chance to get across. So what we did last year to try and help that was a massive exercise in rabbit warren removal. So in an area of about just over 1,000 hectares, we removed 415 warrens, almost 4,000 holes. And this was really just an exercise in trying to take out the most significant cat prey in that area and give the quolls a chance to move through that country. We surveyed on exactly the same trap lines again earlier this year. 11 quolls came up. So the green stars on this map here, again, most of the quolls on the northeastern corner. The 2 significant stars, and it's tenuous at the moment, but two quolls were found in the traps on the west of the property. So that was huge success on that front. It's tenuous. They're actually male quolls. They travel all over the place. The star in the middle of the map was actually a subadult female. So what we're hoping is that that trend will continue and that we get females establishing themselves on the western side of the property next time round. But we did also catch 14 cats in those traps, so which was a bit of an eye-opener. We weren't expecting that many. And that's really doubling our focus in for the rest of this year as we try and basically stay on top of that issue. So we've got baiting programs laid out and trapping programs across the rest of this year for basically trying to keep the cats out of the country as best as possible. That's one project, but and I'm using that as indicative, but the team on the ground, the guides and all the teams in the field, they literally live and breathe looking after that country. And they're out with guests. These are just two of the excerpts from the conservation WhatsApp channel that is running, and permanent monitoring exercise when the guides are out there, whether it's finding goats or whether it's cats, or in this case, it was a female cat that had been eating an Australian owlet nightjar. It's a constant flow of information. We probably need the birth ranger gang to help us systemize this a bit more. But there's enormous pride in all the staff in the work that we're doing. And what's happening is that absolutely conveys it across to guests when they're coming through. So while you've got a business, you've got a team of people on the ground and guests who literally are becoming guardians of the country that we're looking after. So we're hoping to see a lot more of these little paw prints across the property over the coming years. And yeah, the quals are going to be a bit of an indicator of how successful we are with our just rewilding the whole landscape. From me, thank you very much.
No, thank you so much, Charlie, and for that powerful look at rewilding Aqaba and how measurable action can truly transform both landscapes and mindsets, having all your guardians there. And now we're shifting gears for a special segment of the Long Run Virtual Impact Show. We're going to have the hot seat, and to guide us through, I'm handing things over to Rosie, our head of communications, brand, and marketing, who will be leading this session. Rosie.
Thanks, Irene, and thank you, Charlie. What a cool indicator of impact, a qual. Learned something new today. So as those of you know who were on yesterday, we've introduced a new segment to the show this year where we invite 2 technology platforms to showcase how they're enabling our members to enhance and scale their conservation practices on the ground. So today I'd like to welcome Gwyn Watson from RESTOR. As you would have heard Kate mentioning earlier, the Tahi team are working with RESTOR to augment the data on their platform and turn it into workable insights for them on the ground. And in that, contributing to a global data set that really is starting to shape and influence how we look at biodiversity management. So without any further ado, I'd like to hand over to Gwyn to take us through what RESTOR represents for our industry and for biodiversity and conservation management across the globe. Over to you, Gwyn.
Thank you, Rosie. And I assume you can see my screen, right?
Yes, well done.
I do have a couple of videos, so I hope they work. If they don't, I'll just adapt. Yeah, so really excited to be here. Thank you for the invite, and super excited about this partnership that we have with the Long Run and hopefully mapping some of these incredible projects that displayed during this webinar. Now, for you who are new to RESTOR, to give you a bit of background, we're a science-based open data platform that connects the global community of nature stewards to data, knowledge, resources, and markets for them to grow. So we have this mission statement where we envision a world where every action can positively impact nature. Now, RESTOR was launched in about 2001. We were born out of academia and set up as a non-for-profit under a Swiss charitable foundation. Now, really, RESTOR was built initially to democratize global ecological data, which really to make it freely available to anyone and everyone around the world. Since then, we've grown our user base to over 220,000 projects are now represented on the platform. And we have almost 30,000 users using it, which is fantastic. Every day we see more sites added to it. We see more users create accounts. We see more organizations set up, which is wonderful to see. Now our user base ranges from individuals who are just in their own areas of their land, which can be their gardens or their fields or whatever it may be, to community-led groups, indigenous-led groups, NGOs. We have some more larger international NGOs, more well-known, like the WWF and Eden Forests, for example. And we also have facilitators and multinational companies also using the platform. And now right up to government level as well, where we actually have an official partnership with the Costa Rican government, where they've used their platform to monitor, used the RESTOR platform to monitor their payment for ecosystem service scheme, their nationwide ecosystem service scheme they did in the 90s. However, for this webinar, I would like to focus on the ecopreneur category, as we have so many wonderful examples on the platform, and this really ranges from smallholder farmers using agroforestry techniques, or it ranges from, for example, community groups restoring mangroves, not only to like flood resilience, but also to improve the water quality to increase the fishery yields, which the net effect of that, it increases employment for the local communities. And we have many, many examples of conserving and restoring nature to drive tourism. But the I wanted to share with you all is one of my favorite stories, and it's about a named Desta, who's based in Ethiopia in the Keffa region, which is famous for its coffee. Now, on the screen, you can see a map, and what you the huge footprint of coffee production on this area where the forests have been removed. Now, if we can actually this yellow boundary, which we call a polygon, area of Desta's farm, and what it actually seems is that coffee is actually being planted within an intact rainforest, because it actually is. Desta, what they do is they plant their coffee seeds in the canopy of the rainforest, which traps water, traps nutrients, so the coffee can grow really, really well without the aid of fertilizers and irrigation, which means they can get better yields. And when conserving and restoring nature becomes like the economic viable option, we can't stop it from recovering across landscapes. Now, other farmers within the region are also now allowing trees to recover on their ecosystems, so they also can get more profitable coffee productions. Now, from RESTOR, Desta, he gets free access to information about insights like carbon storage in soil, above ground vegetation, water, biodiversity insights. But most importantly for Desta is he gets visibility. And for some users on RESTOR, this can be to funders or corporate partners that they want to engage with. But in this example, it's actually to his customers, who now can see where the coffee they're buying is actually coming from. With that agency is what's actually driving Desta's profits. He tells us that his loyal customers come to him and they say, well, he's actually got a coffee shop based in Europe now. And he tells us his customers come to him and tell him they'll never go to a Starbucks ever again, because they actually know where their coffee's been coming from, which is fantastic to hear. And we were lucky enough to go out and make a film about Desta. So I hope this works. I'm gonna play this to you now, and this give you a lovely insight into this coffee's being produced.
Coffee is one of the most industrialized cultivated crops, and for me, it's important to show that there is another way, there's another path we can follow and still be economical, viable, but in harmony with nature. The hope for changing our farming system, restoring the biodiversity, restoring our indigenous trees, they are alive here. It's end of July now, we're in the middle of the rainforest in Kappa, and we are here really at the source of hope. The diversity we have, the more safe a system is. So you embed the farm in the forest, in an ecosystem that sustains itself. Coffee plants need a certain amount of shade so we can leave our indigenous trees, and that also increases the quality of our coffee. I believe that to get that soul again, we have to acknowledge that we need each other for growth. A human being, our communities can only grow in exchange with each other. And we want to make farming cool again. That's why I'm wearing the hat. There's communication in nature. There's a whole network, a nervous system underground. There is really so much happening in nature that we haven't understood or fully discovered yet, but we can somehow sense it. So keeping this biodiversity is very important for preserving ecosystem. That's how we aim to produce the best coffee. Yeah.
In place life. without forest, without trees, no life will continue. So for me, it's life.
I hope you enjoyed that. It's a very powerful video. Here are some more of our community members. We actually make quite a lot of these films, so you can link to our YouTube channel and go and see some more. There's some great films, incredible nature stewards around the world. I would also quickly like to share, I realise I've really briefed over Restore at the beginning, so I'd like to show you another quick demonstration which runs you through the platform, which might give you a better understanding of what we're doing at Restore.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to Restore. This is our landing page. Restore is available in 7 languages. You can change the language by clicking the 3 lines on the upper left-hand side. On the right side, you can see toggles for data layers, map settings, and other features which can help you explore the map. We are now exploring the sites, which can be the areas of restoration, conservation, and sustainable land use initiatives. I'll take you to one of my favorite restoration sites. This is a site profile of a mangrove restoration initiative in Indonesia. The site profile contains information about the initiative, such as the name, organization. The site profile will also contain auto-generated scientific insights based on the best scientific publications and global data sets available. Here you can see the data for biodiversity, tree, shrub, and herb species, carbon storage in above and below ground biomass, as well as soil, net primary productivity, water, drought and erosion risks, land and tree cover, NDVI, general socioeconomic metrics, and other environmental metrics. One of the most powerful features of Restore, besides the scientific data, is the 2 high-resolution imagery that can be accessed directly on the map. Restore hosts the Esri Wayback, which is available globally on 50 to 30 centimeter resolution. Using this feature, you can visually track how the land changes over time and showcase your restoration and conservation impact. Another exciting feature is you can visualize the data layers on the map and put it side by side with the graph to better understand the impacts. Happy restoring.
Okay, yeah, and if you, I've put up a QR code, you can scan this. There's actually a longer 6-minute demonstration which goes into way more detail about the scientific layers and how you can use some of those scientific layers to help you with decisions making on what you're doing on your land use, or help you monitor your progress over time and your impact of your work. So feel free to scan that and watch that at a later date, or at any point you could reach out to our support. So yeah, this is a quick shout out to some of our partners at Restore who we're engaged with. I really hope you enjoyed that. I know it was quite short and there's quite a lot to unpack, but please at any point feel free to reach out to me and I'll be happy to have a more deeper discussion with you. Thank you all.
Thank you, Gwyn. If you don't mind popping the link to your coffee video, the feed was a little bit off, and I think you've inspired us all with an incredible farm to table story there. So pop the link in the feed to everyone, because I think it's well worth a watch. And watch the space, because the long run will be engaging with Restore, launching next month. So we've got some exciting projects in the pipeline for our community and to bring all of that amazing data to life on your platform. So thank you.